Yeah, sorry, I'm going to
Hey
start
guys,
this
welcome
off.
back to the
I
channel.
try
My
to keep
name's
up with the
Ryan, and
Ukraine
today
stuff
we've got
because it
another
is
update on Ukraine.
relevant,
It
actually.
is Monday the 26th of September, and in the past 24 hours or so, there hasn't
So
been
I'll
a
watch
lot
this
of
and I'll start playing.
movement. There hasn't really been anything key to take away. So today, what we're going to do is a very brief map study, because although there isn't much happening, there has a few things happened. Okay, and then we're going to go straight into the mobilization effort that Putin has failed at over more recently, but more specifically in general, and we're going to go over that a little bit today and explain why. So today's focus, a little bit of a map study, and then we're going to get into those mobilization efforts. There's a lot of key information involved in that, so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys.
Like, if you appreciate pop off and we're not even like involved in it, it's really going to affect us
as well. We had a massive surge of new subscribers on the channel over the past 24 hours, so I just want to say thank you and welcome everyone, guys. You know, this is a fantastic opportunity for me to be able to give you the best information I can, and for you guys to enjoy that content. So enjoy, smash that like button, subscribe and comment, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the comments, guys. Thank you for being here. So here we are again, back into a deep state map, and if you're wondering why I'm wearing a coat indoors, it's bloody freezing here in England at the moment. But focusing on the East Ukraine, there's a few things happening in Donetsk or Blask, but there's the key points. There's three key takeaways really that's happened in the past 24 hours. One of them is confirmation in this area here, Malivika. So this area, it's been confirmed that Ukrainian forces are highly likely to have actually liberated this little town / settlement now, which is great news at the end of the day. This is what we want to see. So it has been, you know, it's pretty much confirmed that this area is now under Ukrainian occupation, giving them a bloody good chance of being able to push further onto little towns and settlements like Andriivka and this place beginning with H. I'm not even going to attempt to butcher that name.
So sound is working
and Novi Mir as well.
So at least I can play you things.
That's quite a
show you things
quite
if
a
I want
prominent
to,
position if
I
you
mean,
look at the area there with that push through. And I have no reason to doubt that that's going to continue as well, guys. Okay, if they can take this place here, they can reinforce it, they can supply themselves with troops coming up from the likes of these areas, pushing through, using this as a main staging area. Next. I think they're going to start pushing Russian forces back quite fast, quite hard and aggressively, and hopefully making that push through a little bit more prominent in the coming days. And I say days because if we revert back to yesterday, we can see that they've made small but meaningful gains in that region. Now, you got to understand, it doesn't mean to say that those gains weren't had at the time yesterday. It just needs more confirmation for them to be able to put them lines forward. But the fact that they're going forward is a good thing, especially around this area. Okay, talking about features and stuff, Arpivka, there's areas there that are going to be quite hard and arduous, horrible terrain to maneuver across. The fact that they're now prominently to the right-hand side of that feature, granted, it's nothing like the Oskil Reservoir to the northwest, but it's still a prominent feature anyway. So they've seemed to have tackled that quite with ease, to be honest with you, and it's promising, to say the least. That's been tackled. They can get in now. Next, Ridkodub, Nov. I think there's probably more signs that they're going to push on through to Nov than anything else based off certain reports. It would make sense that they're going to hit there, they're going to hit there, they're going to hit there. These towns here, these little settlements should be pretty easy pickings, if I'm honest with you, bearing in mind how they've been going in terms of momentum within this region. So I would like to see tomorrow not just a little bit of movement, actually, if they get their act into gear properly and effectively. I do actually think that they can take a lot of these little settlements and villages quite easily. Okay, pushing down to Lehman, where I believe they won't even have to fight. Lehman will be surrounded, and if Russia has any care or regard for their troops there, they'd probably say, you know what, you're going to be surrounded from this direction. It probably is within our best interests to get you the hell out of there. So I would at least leave them a bit of a corridor out this way or that way. Oops, yeah, so or this way, okay, something like that. I think that's what I think. I might be wrong. You might have a few hard, old-time soldiers there, and they might just say, you know what, we're going to go out on our shields in Lehman. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we're generally going to see this place get surrounded from these directions, as mentioned yesterday, once they've taken control of these local settlements. And I think Lehman's going to be pretty easy. And I hope it's going to be that way, okay? The less death is a good thing in war. I know people might be thinking, well, that's I can't believe you're thinking like that, being a former Marine. I like to look at things with a moral compass, and any death is a bad thing, okay? So hopefully, this can be taken without too much concern, and leaving a bit of a corridor out of there for the Russians to get the hell out of there, and not necessarily fight another day, because we don't want that either. But just get the hell out of there. The quicker this war's over, the better for everyone, guys. Simple as that. But in terms of that, there's that part. Ukrainian forces likely liberated that town in Donetsk or Oblast, Shevchenko. I couldn't find it. I believe it's down here somewhere, but it doesn't make sense to me why it would be there. So I don't think that's the liberated town we're talking about. The other one, Malivika, is just up this area here, which we've just mentioned, that area there. And the third prominent point that's happened within the past 24 hours is around Karybka Nov in Donetsk Oblast. Ukrainian forces are contesting Russian positions there, which I believe is, we've just seen it actually. Yeah, we've just been talking about that. Nov. Let me get back down there. Where are we? Here we go. So this is clearly dominated land by Russia. How heavily defended, we don't really know. We can only speculate. But you've got effectively a tiny little settlement there, and two other main ones here. Now, bearing in mind the land that they've taken in the region, I think we might see an update tomorrow, like I've just mentioned, stating that this is potentially not just being contested, but actually being overrun by Ukrainian forces, pushing that further through. So, yeah, I think that information is yet to be fully confirmed. But once it is, it wouldn't surprise me if this whole area becomes territory belonging to Ukraine, if the momentum keeps in their favor. But that being said, let's start getting on to the mobilization efforts with Vladimir Putin and his associates. That's the deep state map part done. So if that's all you came here for, guys, thank you. But we have got quite a bit more stuff to get through. So I appreciate if you stuck around a little bit. This is the meat of the video, so to speak.
I kind of like the world.
Any questions or anything on this part of the map?
They serve a whole career. It's like guaranteed that they do a career.
Feel free to get back to me, guys. Okay.
This is a career, man.
So I've been reading through the Institute of Study of War campaign assessment for yesterday, and there's a special edition out on the demobilization efforts that Vladimir Putin has sourced and tried to put into practice. And it's become evident just off reading a few paragraphs of that article that the mobilization efforts are just failing on a grand scale. I'm going to get into that now. I'm going to read a few extracts and then talk about it. So Russian President Putin is unlikely to overcome fundamental structural challenges in attempting to mobilize large numbers of Russians to continue his war in Ukraine. The partial mobilization he ordered on September 21 will generate additional forces, but ineffectively and with high domestic social and political costs. The forces generated by this partial mobilization critically are very unlikely to add substantially to the Russians' military net combat power in 2022, the back end of 2022. Putin will have to fix basic flaws in Russian military personnel and equipment systems if mobilization is to have any significant impact, even in the long term. His actions thus far suggest that he is far more concerned with rushing bodies to the battlefield than with addressing these fundamental flaws. So what does he mean by that? It's been quite evident without reading these articles that there's been quite a rush to get individuals to the battlefield. Now, we can have a look at how many troops Russia allegedly has full-time, in reserve, on standby, and those ready, fit, able males to be mobilized in times of conscription, or we call it national service, whatever you want. It's the same type of thing. And the fact of the matter is, if he's going to prisons and trying to adapt, deals with prisoners, 6-month deals and stuff, then you can get your freedom if you fight in the war. That tells me that there's either a lot of failings with the statistics of the actual numbers of the Russian military in general, or a lot of those guys are just out of the question, out of the picture, just, killed, maimed, or injured. Those numbers don't exist, because why would you be mobilizing individuals who are not as combat effective as your regular fighting force, and you need to train them, so it's not cost effective either in the long term. The fact that he's trying to rush people to the battlefield tells me a lot about the character involved in the decision making. One, he doesn't care about the individual. Now, I know most governments say they do, but they don't in essence, all right? It's just the way the world goes, but there is a level of care that is bestowed upon your troops, okay? I know that as much as I like to moan about the British military, for instance, I had quite a good time in the British military, and I think I was looked after. And I can say the same with my American brothers. I know that we might have had the same problems, but we were looked after in the grand scheme of things compared to some countries, okay? Now, Russia's just wanting to put anyone in the picture at this moment in time. There was even talks a couple of months ago about North Korea offering 100,000 individuals over there. We know those guys don't even get fed half the time, never mind offering their services. There would have been 100,000, souls to the slaughter, for want of a better phrase. So mobilization efforts is showing that there is fundamental structural challenges, not just in mobilizing large amounts of individuals on the battlefield from Russia, but the fact that they're actually having to do that.
This is what happens when you got a weak America.
In little old Ukraine tells me a massive story about the truth about their actual strength in numbers. Don't really meet the expectations of what we were expecting. These massive amounts of numbers, the special forces, the trained infanteers, the hundreds of thousands of guys ready to go, is not necessarily the truth. Okay, that's just my opinion. What do you think? Now, the Russian armed forces have not been setting conditions for an effective large-scale mobilization since at least 2008, and not been building the kind of reserve force needed for a snap mobilization intended to produce immediate effect on the battlefield. There are no rapid solutions to these problems. So I think Russia is guilty of that. There's many countries around the world guilty of not having readily deployable reserve force, okay? One of the best reserve forces in the world, belong to Sweden and Finland, if I'm not mistaken. They really learned their lessons from Russia back in the day, okay? They learned the hard way, unfortunately. But yeah, your main fighting force is only as good as the one that can back it up in times of need. So the fact that they've neglected that over the past few years, decades, is proven to be quite costly now in this war, which tells me the fact that tells me a lot about Putin's mentality as well. He believed generally in his whole heart that he wouldn't even have to be thinking about his reserve forces. He thought that Ukraine would be easy pickings and they would roll over, take it, and he would be there victorious, and all of Ukraine would be his to do as he pleases, and he'd be moving over into the next country. I generally think that's what he was being advised, and that's the way he portrayed this war would go, but it hasn't been the case, and he is having to eat into his reserve forces now, a reserve force who just quite simply isn't apt, isn't there yet, okay? They're not there. They're not going to be in this war either. You can't become apt during a time of war. How it normally works, and history has stated this many times, if you haven't got your shit together, you're going to get your ass handed to you for however many years you want, and then once it's over, admitting defeat, taking defeat, you take the L, you regroup, and decades later, you might just have a chance of being able to reorganize yourself. But that reorganization isn't going to happen during this war. That's my opinion anyway. Now, the problem Putin confronts stem in part for long-standing unresolved tensions in the Russian approach to generating military manpower, Russian and Soviet military manpower policies from 1873 through to 2008 were designed to support the full mass mobilization of the entire Russian Soviet population for full-scale war. So a little bit of an old mentality going on there still. Universal conscription and the minimum 2-year service obligation was intended to ensure that virtually all military-aged males received sufficient training and experience in combat specialities that they could be recalled to active service after being there. After serving their terms and rapidly go to war as effective soldiers. So thinking old school, what they were wanting is having soldiers who were trained just like me and being able to rely on them. Hopefully, if anything kicked off a few years later, having already been trained. I myself know that that has problems in itself. You know, you're not the man you used to be, yada, 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 but you do have that experience to be able to get yourself somewhat in good condition thereafter. But most Russian and Soviet combat units were kept in a cadre status in peacetime. They retained a nearly full complement of officers and many non-commissioned officers, along with a small number of soldiers. Russian and Soviet doctrine and strategy required large-scale reserve mobilization to fill out these cadre units in wartime. This cadre and reserve approach to military manpower was common among continental European powers from the end of the 19th century through the Cold War. So the fact that they've had this doctrine in place since 1874, obviously they've worked on that throughout the past 100-odd years. It also tells a massive story that they might have had the doctrine in place, but has it actually been practically something that has worked? No, and there's a number of reasons why. You can have policies and procedures in place, but if you're not actually acting upon it, it means nothing. The paper is useless, right? We see that in many things. It doesn't even have to be military orientated. You look at basic top companies fail at this, okay? So policy is one thing. The practicality of that policy and living up to its expectations is another thing, guys, okay? Now, the Russian military tried to move to an all-volunteer basis amid the 2008 financial crisis and failed to make the transition fully, which is obviously evident right now, even back in 2008, those failings, okay? The end of the Cold War and the demonstration of the 1991 Gulf War of the virtues and all the volunteer military led many states to transition away from conscription models. The Russian military remained committed to the cadre and reserve model until 2008, key year that, when Putin directed his newly appointed Ministry of Defense individual to move the Russian military to a professional model and reform it to save costs following the crash, the financial crash that is. One such cost-cutting measure reduced the term of mandatory conscription service to 18 months in 2007 and then to 1 year in 2008. So effectively, this is interesting. If we'd seen that still in place and it didn't cease in 2008, if that was still in place now, where you could mobilize your entire military, your entire civilian fighting force for those fighting fit aged males, we have seen a different Russia right now. You know, obviously we would have seen a different scenario, that's for sure. But obviously cost cutting means cutting corners as well. And you've got less individuals in the pipeline to be able to produce and actively recruit into that reserve capability. So I think the financial crisis, the 2008 thing, did have an actual impact on what we're seeing now in 2022. The Russian military ended up with a hybrid model, blending conscript and professional soldiers together as one. Not too sure how conscripts and professional soldiers would work. I could see it working in certain capacities, but being in my where I come from as a Royal Marine, I don't see it working too well. You know, you've been trained to one of the hardest standards globally, and then you've got a guy coming in who has to be there, doesn't really have to pass the same standards. Yeah, it's going to be a conflict of interests, so to speak. So mixing them with professionals, it's going to help them in terms of you will be carrying them, but that's all you'll be doing. They'll not necessarily be adding anything other than skill and number to your party, which is, and for a country like Russia and a military like Russia, I can see that being a problem. The professional guys already have problems with alcohol and stuff. You see the videos all over the internet, things I can't show. They're getting drunk day to day and stuff, so not very professional, is it? But professional militaries are expensive because the state must offer respective voluntary recruits far higher salaries and benefits that it gives to conscripts. who have no choice but to serve. They quickly found out that Russian defense budget could not afford to offer that, and they sufficiently to overcome the centuries-old Russian resistance to military service. Yeah, so again, old dog, new tricks comes to mind. The Russian military thus became a mix of volunteer professional soldiers. So just explain that, how I don't think it's going to work too well. But the reduction in the mandatory term of service for conscripts made Russia's reserve at less combat ready, and the prioritization of building a professional force and the deprioritization of conscript service likely translated into an erosion of the bureaucratic structures required for mobilization. So this is where we're starting to see the effects now. Okay, all of these things that have happened, well, not even since 2008, since the 1800s, when they had their policies in place for rapid mobilization, to stopping that in 2008 to save money effectively, cost cuts to make it a little bit more streamlined, to, you know, the deprioritization of conscripts meant that we're in this situation now. But there's many countries actually could say the same thing, you know, the deprioritization of their conscripts. You've got to be able to have effective reserves who are willing to, you know, join the military for whatever cause it is. And it's really hard to do that when you're forcing people to. Yeah, it's really, really hard. In Britain, we don't do that at this moment in time. Do we have an effective reserve force? We've been building it up very much over the past 10, 15 years. When I was in the Royal Marines, we had reservists with us all the time. Really, really effective, I may add, and really, really professional. To the point of which the only difference you knew is nothing in their professionalism, but the fact that
it's almost like you start making a military.
We would go to camp, the reservists would go home and carry on with their day jobs. That's in essence the difference.
Because a lot of the same family ends up like, you
it's
know, my father was in the
crazy,
military.
But, you know,
I'm in the
military.
military.
Conducted
all that.
At least 4 attempts of mobilization from last year.
Too, but usually it does stay in the family.
Of available combat ready, and this is the key, and willing reservists ahead of partial mobilization. So, do I see mobilization working for Russia? I don't see it working in the short term, mid term, or long term. They've got a lot to work on in that regard, guys. But I'm here just, you know, giving you the thought-provoking questions, and I'll ask you this: do you see mobilization working in the short, mid, or long term? You've heard what I've had to say. I don't think they're going to be able to gain enough momentum during this conflict. As long as if Ukraine can keep it up, keep
Europe's
the momentum
turned into
going,
a meat grinder again.
And it is the key thing as well. Have that longevity and the support from the West, then they stand a good chance of pushing on through. But it's going to take a long time for you to be able to build up a reserve capability and have willing individuals, because all you're going to get is guys who are not wanting to be there, not going to want to be trained, haven't really got a purpose, and are going to do everything to get the hell out of there. And, you know, a lot of them are going to perish at their peril as well. So I don't see it working, troops, in all honesty. But here we are, 23 minutes in, me waffling. If you like me waffling and you like what I say, then please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new here. And yeah, troops, I'm just a normal guy from the Northeast. I just so happened to pass the Royal Marines Commando course at one point in my time. I don't know why I'm wearing these. I think it's just a habit. But yeah, I might start wearing this on stream actually. But I just want to say, guys, everything I say from my own experiences. It's all represented to me. I don't represent this per se. This doesn't necessarily, my opinion doesn't represent the Royal Marines, okay? This is an individual opinion that I have. I want to make that clear. And yeah, I'm just a veteran at the end of the day, and I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys supporting the channel. And if you want to see more content like this, share the content far and wide, guys. But other than that, I just want to say thank you. Peace to Ukraine. If you're a veteran, current servant, wanting to serve, anything to do with the military, thank you for your service and thank you for the support. It really does make all the difference. Have a nice day, guys. Peace.
I like that guy. He looks like Saddam Hussein now. Okay. Oh, you know what? I don't want to use that. This controller. I gotta make some burgers. So, let me get this started and then I'll work on some burgers. There, that one comes in better. I wish I had a better full screen down here, but I played on this 4K capture utility app and it's just, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. Player 2. I don't want a player 2. I just wanted a player 1. Hold on. Oh shit. How do I reset these? I don't even know how to reset those. Hold on. Ooh. Okay. I want to use this controller. I don't want to use that one. I like this one. I mean, I guess I'll use it if I have to. Ah, fucking use it. Wants to be difficult. So, okay. Boom. All right. Microphone looks good. All that looks good. Okay. I'll take my boom arm down. Here we go. Well, no. Here we go. Does this work? Is this working? Here we go. No. I gotta find a good spot for it. That works. It's burger time. Almost. I am getting hungry. Oh shoot, let me put my chat up. Up my chat up. Not that I think anybody's in there, but you know. Maybe by the end of my stream I'll have someone. Maybe. I mean, hell, I don't even think they start trying to recommend you for people until like you've been on for like 3 or 4 hours, which is ridiculous, but whatever. Oh yeah, I was gonna start playing around with some builds here. Hate that. Okay, I gotta make some dinner. I'll just continue my stream. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Burgers and fries then.
diabetic. Great kitty. Of course, I start streaming as I'm about to start making dinner, but whatever. I know. I need to work on my backdrop a little bit. I mean, it's a start. I could probably have some more decorations, but I do like the lights. The lights are awesome. Love the lights. Love. Okay. Blow OBS up again. I need to take my face cam out.